What we are now going to do is install the testing environment for this course. That testing environment is going to be a product called XAMPP. And what this is an open source product that includes everything you need to install the testing server environment in one installation. The reason I'm directing you to my site, you'll see in just a moment. And it's because Windows 7 and XAMPP version 1.7.4, which is the present version as of right now, does have an issue with Windows 7. So I've provided you a link to the prior version, which has no issues. So XAMPP 1.7.3, as of the release right now, is the latest version that works with Windows 7 without any issues. So if you click on that link, it will take you to a zip file. And that zip file allows you to download the prior version 1.7.3. So go ahead and do that one if you're on Windows 7. If you're on anything but Windows 7, feel free to use the latest version. Your version of XAMPP really makes no difference. Everything's included in this, so even if you're using a much older version of XAMPP, you should have no issues in terms of having it include everything you need. So what XAMPP does is include MySQL and PHP, as well as the Apache server. Now, I have already downloaded this, so let's go through the install of XAMPP for Windows. And this is the 1.7.3 version. What they did in 1.7.4 is they made the last part of the install a little bit easier. So if you do end up using 1.7.4 or later, you won't have to do the last few pieces we are going to be doing in 1.7.3. So this really is just a wizard that walks you through the installation process. So I'll click Install. I will allow this. That's a user account confirmation from Windows 7. And it is a lot of files. You can see XAMPP PHP, there's Perl, there's MySQL, there's Zend. There's all kinds of different products wrapped up into one nice and easy install with XAMPP. So it's a great product. You'll get familiar with controlling both the database and the web server. When we do this install, we are not installing it as a Windows service, so there's a little separate control panel you use to turn this on and off. It's my preference to do it that way. Working with the panel is easier to turn this on and off, and you may not always want to have your server running when you start up your machine. So that's why we're going to do a basic install. Now at the end of this install, because this is 1.7.3, there are some command line prompts that you will need to use, and we'll walk through those in just a minute once this is completed the install. Pair, which you see kind of rolling past you really quickly there, is another library you can use to work with PHP. Perl is an actual programming language. It's a very old programming language prior to server-side scripts and server-side languages. Perl was used to create CGI scripts to do the same process. Now most people tend to use a server-side language, but the Perl libraries are available to you, and a few of these services built into XAMPP do use those. So we'll give this another minute or so. Almost done. And we'll take a look at what this process does. Now we're going to move into some command line prompts, so I'll walk you through how to answer those as well. So we are just about done. It's amazing how many files this installs. So here's our command line prompts I was mentioning to you. Move this down so you can see it a little easier. So, should I add shortcuts? Yes or no? I definitely want a shortcut on my desktop to be able to get to the control panel. So you can see default is Y, so just hit Enter. Should I proceed? Absolutely. We will keep it at the Y default and just hit Enter. Now this is the part that tends to confuse people without drive letters. And what we want to do is change this to yes. So hit the Y key to change it to Y. These are all just yes/no questions, so it really is pretty simple. I'll show you why we do this. This gives you the control panel for controlling the process of your web server and the PHP portion along with the database. So we're going to say Y and hit enter. It looks like there's a big deal going on, but don't let that throw you. We're just not using it as a built-in service with Windows. We're installing it separately. So press return to continue. This is set to Europe. That's fine, whatever your time zone is, if you want to use it. This picks up on wherever you're located. So if I'm in the US, it picks up on whatever time zone I'm in the US as well. So I'll just hit return. Now what we want to do is start the control panel. So I'll put the number 1 and hit enter. And there's my control panel. Now we're going to exit by hitting the letter X. Now X actually closed that up, so let me hit X one more time and return. Now XAMPP does have a website of its own, but as you can see, you're downloading the version that has some issues with Windows 7. So that's why we went out to my website to do this. So we'll close that up. And here's my XAMPP control panel. Now what I'm going to do is run this. I'm going to right-click and say Run as Administrator. This makes sure that there are no permissions issues when you go to run the actual server. I'll hit Yes to that prompt, and here is my control panel. And we're going to talk about this control panel in another movie, but this is how you turn on and off your web server and the database portion. It's also how you administer this portion. We now have XAMPP installed. You can see it's a very simple process. Those prompts at the end in prior versions, you will get prompted for those same prompts. Any version later than this one we're using, 1.7.3, they've eliminated the prompts at the end, and it automatically does exactly what we did using the prompts. So let's get started working in XAMPP.